much, Peter. That was a real eye-opener for me. Appreciate it. Next we're going to have Sequoia Redd, and she is a local sex worker activist. Sequoia, there you are. Alrighty. Hi, I'm Sequoia. I am 23 years old, and I have been consensually working in the sex industry for almost 4 years now. Although oftentimes used as a euphemism for prostitution, sex worker is a term to define any worker within the adult/sex industry. So, for example, porn stars are sex workers and strippers are sex workers too. I'm hoping tonight's events will serve to draw awareness to the fact that the stigma that's perpetuated by the criminal status of some sex workers is actually serving to make a marginalized population a perfect target for violence. So I'm going to start with a quote by the Green River Killer, who was located in Seattle, Gary Ridgway. Gary Ridgway said, "I picked prostitutes as victims because they were easy to pick up without being noticed. I knew they would not be reported missing right away and might never be reported missing. I thought I could kill as many of them as I wanted without getting caught." He confessed to having murdered over 90 women. Some Seattle prostitutes, their boyfriends or pimps, knew the Green River Killer was Gary Ridgway for years, but were too afraid to come forward for fear of getting arrested. Or the police didn't believe those that did come forward, or the police didn't seem to care. Ridgway's killing spree went on, like Penny said, for over 20 years. The criminalization of sex work both forces victims of violence into silence and also stigmatizes the labor of sex workers in a way that devalues their lives. From the fact that not too long ago, police report forms contained the code NHI, which means no humans involved, for when they found a dead prostitute, to the fact that underage trafficking victims are actually prosecuted in our judicial system due to the lack of services, to how a marginalized population is not given any protection whatsoever, I think we can all agree that something is wrong with this picture. Violence towards sex workers needs to end. Sex workers and trafficking victims deserve the proper social services and support because we're people too. Whether you are opposed to sex work or not, we can all agree that no matter where we stand morally, there is no excuse for 90 women being easy targets for murder because of their criminal status. No matter what you might strongly believe about the criminalization of prostitution, we can all agree that we need to end violence and give this marginalized population a safe place to report the violence that occurs to them. South Florida is a hot spot for the sex and adult industry. We have hundreds of strip clubs, massage parlors, and escort agencies. We are the second largest producer of pornography in the United States. Not to mention that Florida is commonly known amongst law enforcement to have one of the highest incidences of human trafficking in the country. In fact, Florida is commonly cited along with New York and California as being one of the top 3 destinations for trafficking victims in the United States. My point is, we have a lot going on here in terms of sex work and human trafficking, yet no visible community and very few services for these people. If there has been one thing I've learned as a sex worker over the past 4 years, it's that the lack of transparency, the lack of community, the criminalization of certain types of sex work, and the stigma of the overall industry that creates the exploitation and the violence. I'm hoping today will be just the beginning of more awareness and organizing and community building around sex worker activism and human trafficking in South Florida. Thanks for listening. Get your red umbrellas, and let's march to the night heron. Okay, so we do have red umbrellas to share with you and also signs. Before we do that, we also have one last comment from our Lake Worth City Commissioner, Suzanne Mulvehill, to wrap up the speaking part. Suzanne, we really appreciate your support tonight. Thank you so much.
Just wanted to thank everybody for coming out. You know, I was asked when I was contacted by Penny a couple of weeks ago. I have to be honest, I had mixed thoughts about coming here and about saying something. And a quote came to me as I was standing here, and I said, you know, I will speak. I mean, I feel like I have something I want to say. And what came to me was the quote that says that everything has a crack in it, and that's how the light gets in. And I was really proud to see when I looked on the website for this event that Lake Worth was recognized along with cities around the world as one who was going to honor this event. And it made me realize like what a special place and what a special community that we're in. That we look at issues that can be dark, they can be gray, they're not black and white. And it's finding what's right and doing what's right. And when I stood here, the last time I stood here was for Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And I stood there and I thought, now why wouldn't I come and stand here about the very same issue about violence? Violence is violence regardless of who it's happening to. And being one who has actually been on a prostitution sting with our Sheriff's Department, this gives me an element of compassion that I really hadn't thought about before. It helps me look at something from a different perspective that I can actually bring back to our city in terms of how we want to address issues. People are people, as I heard, and we need to look at things from a human rights perspective and continue to go to a higher level. And I really respect all of you for being here today. Thank you.
Hold signs too.
Yeah.
Can everybody come this way? Brandon and Jacob.
I'm like standing next to him like here, and then I see everyone.
Yeah, hold your umbrellas up. That's great. Where's your umbrella? Well, all right, everybody ready? Bring the signs to the front. See all the signs to the front. Let's take several shots. 1, 2, 3, 1. Hold up the signs. Hold those umbrellas up high. All right, bring them low. All I want to see is umbrellas. Make a barrier with umbrellas. Yeah.